If there is a message for us today, I believe it is to learn to live from our heart in love. These short lessons, hopefully, will help to inspire you to live with purpose, love passionately, and inspire others. We are the change agent our world needs. I'm Helen Toews. Step into the river today with me to explore the mysteries of God. They are not hidden from us, but for us to discover. Nice to see everybody. Well, we've been all over the map tonight before the meeting, talking about farming and crops and being vegetarians, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the best part, it was the best part, really. I love that we have so many people that know about farming. Is fabulous. But my first question tonight was going to be, did anybody go back into the ascension during the week? Because Betty she shared a little testimony, and I just asked if you would share it again while we're all here, because I thought it was delightful, Betty.
Oh, yes. Well, now I didn't go back into it,
Oh.
but I found it very powerful when we were doing it on Wednesday night. And then on Thursday, I had this ministry session with these two people that every 3, 4 months. And I actually mentioned to them what had happened. And what I had during the session, I had, the bulbs that were there. And I think it was Gina that said, that we can take them. And I did. And I've been having a lot of fatigue, and no matter how much I sleep, I can start doing something, and it's like it just hits me, and I have to go sit down. I just feel like I can hardly do anything, and I've had tests, and everything is okay, so I couldn't understand what was going on. But anyway, so so I thought, okay, I saw this big energy ball, so I chose to take that inside of me. And then there were two smaller ones. One was joy and one was love. And I took those inside of me. And I really just I thought, yes, that is going to make a difference. So the next day when I had this session, one of the girls, and I had mentioned it to them, but she said, yeah, I just feel that the energy and the joy and the love, she said, I just feel like I want to plant that in the garden of your heart. And which she did. And all week now, I haven't hardly even tested it out because I've been so busy, but I have not felt that surge of fatigue that I often will get. And there have been nights even that I haven't even slept that well, and I don't have that fatigue. Like I can feel tired, but that just overpowering fatigue. So I'm really excited, and I'm wanting to go back into it again just to see what else I get. But yeah, so it was wonderful, and I'm very excited, and I'm believing that that did something, and I have no idea why or how or what, but I'll just receive it.
Well, it's interesting. Father knows exactly what we need, right? And just and it manifests. You position yourself there, and wow, wow, wow. I'm really happy for you. It's awful to feel fatigued. You feel so helpless, right? It's not a great feeling at all. Good for you, Kathy.
I went back in and it was interesting. I was holding the bubble, and it was like the bubble popped, like the that um iridescent rainbow covering popped, and what was left was an orb, was this glowing white orb. And I, just like you, Betty, I took that in, and and it was just a very interesting time of like seeing the rainbows, but the rainbow, the iridescent ness of what had been, and but also recognize it was in me. And I was actually visiting all sorts of places on the globe and just releasing, some of these things into different situations I was aware of in different parts of the world. Yeah, it was really neat experience. And
Yeah.
it yeah, it wasn't for a long time, but it was really great just to be able to go back in and to interact again with what we'd all done together.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Good for you. And I hope it's very encouraging actually that you went in and because that really is our portion when it's not just an exercise, right? It's not just something, oh, I think it'd be a great thing to do. It's a great place to live. And because you've joined somewhere, you've joined into something very significant, and good for you. I love that. Um, I After the meeting, Todd Plank messaged me, and because he brought up the the iridescent part, and so I don't know where he got the picture, but anyway, he sent it. It was very very powerful. I felt um, because I'm a visual learner too, and but this one had a shading on in the bottom of the drop. Remember he said he saw something upside down, like the drops were one way, and then he saw it upside down. And so what I did with that was I went into it. I went into it. What's happened since is, and I don't know how it's related. I wish I had more to fill to to give more understanding, but I'm still in it. And but I've been waking up to the most lucid dreaming that I have had in years, an absolute year. It's like something woke up in me, and part of it I think is what the power of these orbs, whatever it is that we engaged with. And I've actually had to start a new dream journal because of the intensity of the dreams. Plus, when I wake up, you know how you're that John Paul Jackson used to say, dreams are written in disappearing ink. That's why you need to write them down when you wake up. And that's certainly been true for me. But these dreams, I am so awake in them that I actually remember them and can go back in. So that's something shifted from that ascension for me as well. Anyway, I love this. I love it. It's so good. We're going to do something. Actually, I do have a message for tonight. We're going to talk about spiritual sovereignty and embracing your divine authority. So, short lesson, but then the activation for that is going to be a conversation that for us to get into because I really want to hear from you guys. But Gina and I were talking about, the books that we're reading, and we opened that up a little bit last week. But we thought what we'd do is just give a short, really short. This isn't going to be a lesson from a book. The books that we are sharing because we've enjoyed them, and I would love it if you have books that you really enjoy, whether you're reading them or they're on audio, things that you're reading that really touch you. If you would bring that information maybe next week, or just let me know that you'll be on, and we'll make time for it because it really is fun to. There's so much information out there. I love it when people are really impacted by something that they're reading. So Gina was reading this book called Molecules of Emotion. And when she was sharing it with me a couple of days ago, I just asked her, I said, would you, whatever you just said to me now, would you say it from what inspired you from this book? Because it was very poignant, and it might be something that you guys would like to read as well. So over to you, Gina, and I'm going to pin you.
Okay, well, we were chatting about how sometimes we as people will in our haste, run after or react to or buy into or jump on the bandwagon of a new spiritual concept, right? Or something somebody said, something somebody preached, something somebody taught, and we just run with it. And maybe in haste. And we all know what we're talking about. Like we've all been there. It's somebody else's revelation that we're trying to grab the coattails of, right? Because it sounds great and it's wonderful and it's worked for them or something. So we just run after it. So basically, we're kind of like taking the outside source, something outside of us, to meet the need of some inner thing that we're searching for. So it got me thinking about that, and it's part of what I was reading. We're still searching for something or someone outside of ourselves or beyond our own inner knowing to meet our needs or give us the answers and the solutions to something that we're seeking. Right. And I keep thinking, okay, and so this book is talking about how the molecules in us and our neuropeptides and their receptors do that very thing innately in us, and that's why we feel the way we feel, and that's what happens. So anyway, I started thinking about that. I thought, well, just a second, if we do this already in ourselves and in our cells and in our molecules, then why are we doing something different with our purposes and our intentions and our thoughts and decisions? Because that's not how our bodies work. That's not how our minds work. And it sometimes gets us into a little bit of trouble and puts us back because it's not really our own, right? So we chase after a new thing, and then we become tossed to and fro on every wind of doctrine. That's what really spoke to me when I was reading this book. Now, it has nothing really much to do with what she was talking about on a molecular level, but she brought it round to our intention, which I thought was very interesting. She's a scientist, but she's come to this real interesting spiritual point of view, which I loved. Because she kind of married the two, which what we've talked about lots, spirituality and science, right? So I started thinking about that, about the what seems to be automatic responses. Either we learn how to respond that way, or it comes naturally for some reason. And I realized that we have a higher and a supernatural and a meta response that we could choose instead, intelligently choose instead, consciously choose instead, purposefully choose instead. And so when we're practicing being aware and practicing being in the moment, which is a practice because it doesn't come necessarily as naturally as we want it to, it can, but we're not taught that way. We're not indoctrinated that way. So we have to make it a purposeful decision. So when we're practicing being in the moment and being aware and being conscious of certain things, we can choose to respond to this information in a different way.
Right.
And that's engaging in our higher self. And I think it's that decision, that being aware of that we can choose a different thing, that makes the difference.
Right.
And that was so important to me. So we can practice being the observer of the event where the information is presented, okay?
Right.
And then instead, we can observe ourselves receiving the information. And it's that participation as the observer that will play the important role in creating our reality. That will make the difference, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And it just sort of dawned on me. I thought, well, yeah, we know that, but do we catch ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Because that catching ourselves allows us to transcend space and time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Placing it beyond the confines of our limits, the limits of matter, right? And energy, and places it in an unlimited wisdom and an intelligence that we already have within us.
Right.
And it dawned on me, and I thought, it's not something that we didn't actually ever hear before, but it really made sense when I was reading this book, because it already happens on a molecular level.
Right.
Our molecules, our receptors, our neuropeptides, our synapses in the brain send information and talk to one another. There's a two-way communication in our cells that keeps us living, that
Right.
keeps us alive. And I thought, well, that makes total sense. So we can allow this information into our emotions through the mind and through the body and through the spirit, and into what she talked about, the info realm, which I loved that word, because it was a realm that was beyond the realm of matter that we have access to.
Right.
And it's where on a molecular level, where that all happens.
Right.
It's the field that we talk about, the
Right.
field of intelligence, the mind of God, the inner wisdom, the source, the Holy Spirit, whatever we're calling that. And if we can, in our awareness, catch that moment, place that information, the new whatever concept, into the info realm and measure it to our innate wisdom, our answers and solutions will arise within us, not from without us.
I think that is a really interesting key. And as I'm listening to you, uh, I'm realizing the fact that all the information that we need, because we are a receptor, we receive it, and we are in that conscious field, is there already. And what you're describing is releasing it on purpose, like being mindful and doing it on purpose. That is totally amazing. And so if you are interested, guys, in Molecules of Emotion, it's the subtitle is The Science Between Mind Body Medicine by Candace V. Pert, PhD. How's that?
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
It was really quite fun to have this thing bubble up inside.
Yeah, as you're reading, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, the other book tonight that I think it was mentioned again last week, but it's Greg Braden's new book is called In Pure Human: The Hidden Truth of Our Divinity, Power, and Destiny. And it's a terrific book because I've written it out. It explores the profound capabilities inherent within human beings, emphasizing the importance of recognizing and harnessing these abilities. Does it sound like Gina just talking? Emphasizing the importance of recognizing and harnessing these abilities in the face of rapidly advancing technologies like artificial intelligence. And this book actually goes into the caution that he raises over the over-reliance on external technologies, suggesting that such dependence may weaken our natural systems, diminish qualities like emotion, empathy, intimacy, and forgiveness. Braden warns that without a shift in perspective, humanity risks evolving into a hybrid species, losing touch with essential human attributes. So there we roll. Those two books, if you're interested in those subjects, really would be good side by side, wouldn't they?
And I read them side by side too, interestingly enough. And Greg Braden's book is so beautifully and graciously written.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, just a beautiful book and easy to read and so well explained.
I
Yeah,
find, I find that his writings, I've actually now read all his books. I haven't finished this one, but um, I've read them all, and he has had a gracious move from science into spirituality. It's like this book helps you to understand and to see how he is embracing his spirituality as it goes on. It's exactly the same thing that happened with Wayne Dyer. He started very psychologically and science and putting fun things together, but ended up understanding the spiritual self and the importance. So these books are terrific. So next week, if anybody has, I would love to hear what you're reading. Give us a few minutes of just an overview if you would like, because it is kind of nice to just to see. Okay, thanks, guys. That's awesome. This is good. This is really good. Tonight, we're going to take a look at. This isn't a very long lesson. The reason being, I really want to have time to talk about some things. And as I said, the title of it is spiritual sovereignty. We use that word a lot, don't we? Yeah, sovereignty. And I've had people actually ask me, I don't understand what sovereignty is. We use the word when it comes to sovereigns, like His Majesty, Her Majesty, and kings and queens. But spiritual sovereignty is really the recognition and embodiment of our divine authority. It's our inner wisdom, and it's a conscious choice. Aren't we hearing that a lot tonight? Wow. It's the ability, when you're sovereign, it's your ability to live authentically, free from external control, conditioning, or manipulation, while remaining connected to higher consciousness. So, what does it mean to live authentically? You know, sometimes I feel like I'm not always being authentic because there's times that I feel like my answers are more diplomatic than they are from my heart. And I realize that I'm sort of I I'm I want to be aware that the person I'm talking to is in the place that we're actually in a discussion rather than just zinging. Back in the day, it was Bible bullets, we called them, that were just, these are the facts. But I want to be able to live diplomatically and authentically. And does that mean that I'm not living from my authentic self? Well, I'd like to hear from you guys, and that's one of the questions we're going to go into. How do you handle some of these situations when you really want to be authentic, you really want to tell the truth? And how, I'd love to hear how you deal with it. And we're going to look at this area of authenticity, but we're going to look at these questions as well. We're going to look at some of the key aspects to spiritual sovereignty. And one of them is the Proverbs, as a man thinks, so is he. This is what we've explored, right? You are the creator of your reality. And when you're the creator, we take full responsibility for our energy, choices, and actions. Question: do you believe that you are the creator of your reality? Do you believe that your energy, your choices, your actions are the result of where you are in your life today? That's a really heavy question for some. If this statement is true, then to what degree is it true? If my reality is that I'm living in lack or disease or chaos or fear or frustration, if I've created my reality and they're negative, how do I handle that? What is my responsibility to me to handle that? Sovereignty means that we live from our inner authority. That means that we're able to say, I am. I am without qualification, with full assurance of knowing that truth, like when our truth and our intuition guide us rather than external sources of validation or societal expectations, like thinking all the time about what other people think. Really, is it? Can you say that you're living from your I amness and your intuition, or are you still influenced by outside noises like church doctrines, rules, influenced by different speakers, by government? Now, all these things are influencers, but is that where your main answers are coming from? Or is it coming from your I amness? Because being sovereign means that we have an energetic autonomy. Like, you know that we are energy, right? We are energy beings. And in that we can maintain control over our personal energy field, setting healthy boundaries, and we can recognize when external influences affect us. So, are you able to do that all the time? Or is there times where you bend your own rules? And here's one question I'm going to ask, open up to later. Do you let people cross your boundaries? We'll go there. Having spiritual sovereignty means that we align with higher consciousness. It does not mean isolation. It means choosing to align with divine wisdom, your sacred self, and universal truth. Now, is there anything you need to do to choose to change? Because change is a choice, right? To align with your higher self. And the last question, living from sovereignty, we are free from fear-based control. Sovereignty means breaking free of fear, programming, beliefs that limit your spiritual expansion, expressions, or ability to live from your sacred self. Breaking free from fear, programming, or beliefs means a serious deconstruction of former beliefs and habit. What would you say to somebody who needs to do that? To become spiritually sovereign, it's essential to distinguish between external control and authentic inner knowing. When we are under external influences, here are some of the signs. When you feel obligated to follow society, religious, or cultural expectations that do not resonate with your truth. Probably if you've understand that statement, you may understand that you have at one point allowed these external influences, that you were feeling obligated to follow the rules and regulation. I know I did. I know, coming out of many decades of one, religious institutional thought, it was very difficult sometimes to even realize that I was thinking in old patterns and old things. So, and the other thing is, when you're under external influences, do you seek external validation over trusting your own intuition? We can all think of times when we could have followed our own intuition. I call them the woulda, coulda, shouldas. There were lots of times where if I had would have done this and then I could have done that, or I should have done that. Well, we're not going to go backwards. We're going to say, okay, let's look at the times when we construct fear, guilt, or shame, or any other of the low frequency emotions. We have those times, but if they are dictating our decisions, we're now operating from the outside of us. The times we may say, what would people think? How many of us have that concern, right? We cannot live from sovereignty if we are always worried or concerned about what other people think, or what other people's expectations or rules are. Do you know some rules are meant to be broken? we haven't, the reason some rules, and look at some governments today, rules are meant to be broken to bring freedom, especially when they violate your sacred sovereignty. It's a time where we need to let ourselves think of that exact fact. Some rules are meant to be broken. You know, Hitler's youth army, back as in World War II, when he was able to lay down rules and regulations for a whole segment of society, these young people. If these young people had been brought up to think on their own, not with external influences, that army would never have come to be. Gangs would cease to thrive. I find it odd, but there are times where I've allowed people to have complete sovereignty to share their beliefs, but when they shut me down, I stop talking. And now that I've grown up a little bit more, I've also learned that there are ways to to say things that people actually will listen to. It really bothered me when I got shut down, and I just let things be. If that's you, I understand, but you don't have to stay there. One way to realize that we have external forces that are in our life today is that they cause us to feel drained, manipulated, or controlled in relationships or institutions. And it's a time to reevaluate, take a step back. A good understanding to break the external forces, if this is to realize, if this is what you realize, no one can make your choice for you. You need to make your own personal choice. We are responsible for our choices. You know, it doesn't work anymore to say they made me do it, or I don't know about you, but bringing up kids, we heard it a lot. She made me do that. He did that. Other signs that you're living from spiritual sovereignties is that you'll trust your inner voice. You'll trust your intuitive knowing above external pressures. There was a time I was thinking, as I was thinking about this very point, it may be a silly one, but I was driving with a friend in Kansas City. We were going to the airport, and we had a rented car, and we were a little bit behind the 8 ball, so we really needed to get on time. And my friend this GPS was being naughty, and so we're trying to figure out now how to get to the airport road. We had all sorts of different people tell us, and we were lost. We were just lost. And as we're driving on the freeway, you know how you have to change lanes and everything. She's going, "You got to go there. You got to go on that next. That's it. You got to go." And very, very excited about it. And I got caught up, and I went, "No." Inside of me, no, it's not the turnoff. And I just followed it. It was such an adamant no that I went into the next turnout, and my intuition, it was so strong, took us into the next turn, which showed the first sign to get to the airport. Had we gone another way, we would have now tried to backtrack, and we'd be in the same thing again. I love it when those things happen. I love it even better when I allow myself to listen to it. We all have those things. Trust your intuition, even when you're driving. Feeling empowered in your choices without needing approval for others is a good sign that you're operating in your sovereignty. When you live in your sovereignty, when you set your own healthy, energetic, and emotional boundaries, and that goes to any relationship or any situation. You are not tied at the hip with anybody. When you stand in your sovereignty, you will bless the people around you because you live with strength and determination. And it's not about being rude, and it's not about fighting about something. It's knowing yourself, knowing your own healthy energy and your own emotional boundaries. When you are, excuse me, when you're walking in your sovereignties, you choose alignment with your higher truth over conditioned belief systems. And this is the one that many who are in organized communities run by rules and law have a very difficult time to change. I certainly did for a period of time. I was very grateful to have community and to have people like you guys to walk these things through. You know, we can actually cultivate spiritual sovereignty by taking action. One of the things is when you recognize something within yourself, something where you've given away your power, take time to think about that. Actually reflect on it. Recognizing whatever it is your first step. And when you do, don't beat yourself up because your sovereignty is within you. You have the mind of Christ. You choose courage and you can go from there. And it's not a bad thing to just affirm yourself. Say, I am the sovereign creator of my reality. I trust my inner wisdom. How about that? And this begins to change your thinking process and allows you then to meditate on what is true versus what feels imposed on you. Don't let other people do your thinking for you. That's where you release your own sovereignty. Strengthening intuitive discernment. Practice listening to your intuition through quiet reflection, meditation, or journaling. And if you thought you were going to get away from heart-brain coherence, you're not. The best way to practice this that I know of is to set your heart in that heart-brain coherence. Quiet yourself, breathe, touch your heart, set your emotions to gratitude. Allow yourself to be in that beautiful, beautiful heart-brain coherent state. Then ask your heart a question. Make it simple. And you know what? Your intuition, the answers come easily from that place. Ask yourself things like, does this belief or decision resonate with my higher self? Notice there'll be sensations in your body because truth feels expansive. Do you know that? Fear-based influence feels restrictive. Visualize when you set energetic boundaries, you can visualize a sphere of light around you, reinforcing your energetic sovereignty. Do you know that that's not just a silly thing? It's not just well, just pretend. No, that's actually part of our truth. And that's the scripture in Jeremiah where he says he will set the fire around you and be the glory in your midst. That's what God says about us. He also says that he goes before us in all things and he's our rear guard. We're so protected. So if we receive that and visualize that as light and life around us, we reinforce our energetic sovereignty when we do that. Learn to say no to any energy, to any people, to any commitments that drain or control you. Seriously, say no. No is actually an answer. It doesn't require qualification. Sometimes you just need to say it loud so you can hear it yourself. But no is an answer, and it's okay. It's not disrespectful. And I'm not saying to do any of this in a disrespectful manner. Respect yourself first, but align yourself in your sovereignty, in who you are in your life. It's important to release any contracts, agreements, or beliefs that no longer serve you. You know, Everyone understands what a divorce contract is. That's when two people have come to an agreement that they're going to break a contract. They're no longer going to live by that contract, and they are going to now legally sign another one that says it's okay. You don't have to withhold or uphold that first one. You can do that, you know. If there's something in your life that has been keeping you bound up, or that you've come into agreement with, just something within inside yourself. Nobody even has to know about it, but it's keeping you bound to something, and not allowing you to stand in your sovereignty. One thing that I used to do, I haven't had to for a long time, but I would, when these things came along, I would write it out so that I can see what it is that is bothering me. And when I meditate on that and see the truth, and that I need a new contract to release myself from what I've bound myself to. You know what I used to do? I used to put it in the sink, or if I was outside, I'd go and burn it. Once I've realized it, once I have gotten rid of it, I didn't go for counseling. This was my counsel. I rewrote my contract with life rather than death, with purity rather than junk, whatever it is. And so I use that technique a lot. I'd write it out, I'd burn it up, I'd see the smoke going up, and I would visualize the fact that it's gone and God is dealing with it. And when my memory wants to bring it back, you know what? I visualize the contract fulfilled because God's in charge. Do something. Do it, not even, it doesn't matter if it seems silly. Tune into your personal spiritual path rather than follow any collective conditioning. If you're drawn to the conference circle, or the latest and greatest, or the in the who's who circle, I don't even know who that is, but maybe you do. If you continually have to look for what does so and so say, or what do they recommend, or what does this particular line of thought mean to me, and you're getting that input so that you can make the choices. Have you ever thought that if you sat in the silence, those things would come to you? I know Susan Willis is often on here. She's been one of my best inspirations for this, because she found a place. She set her boundaries in her sovereignties, and she came to that place of meditation, of silence, of change, of shift, her own sacred self. And she found it and started living in it. And it has been such a well, when I say I was mentored in it, I was so inspired watching the process. And I realized that this is a profound personal spiritual truth for us to live in our own sovereignties. When that process, when that spiritual path becomes yours, and not coming out of hype, or the latest and greatest buzzwords, or whatever, but it comes from the inside of you, and total peace comes from that. Direct knowing comes from the place of intimacy, and the voice from that place comes from the silence, and you know because you know. Living as a sovereign being means that we can express our truth fearlessly while we honor others' paths. Do you know what? When you're sovereign in your own self, you don't have to be right. You just have to be loving, unconditionally loving. We don't have to try and convert anyone to anything. When we share our life and our time people start generally asking questions. And when they do, we can answer honestly. And it's amazing how lovely those conversations can be when it comes out of you living in your sovereignty. Trust in your divine right to create and shape your reality. Trust that God goes before you. Trust that He's the fire around you. Deepen your spiritual sovereignty. Do something that creates an action that will help you to remember your sacred sovereign self, if that is something that helps. If you want to change in your life, you have to act on it. And, you know, there's a saying that says it's really hard to move a parked car. It's easier to move a moving car, right? And if you put it in gear, better yet, if you start the engine, boy, things will change. That whole thing means you will, if you want change, you have to do something. Sovereign self uh, can have different things, and I these aren't things that you have to do. These are the things that you get to do. You may just want to have a space where you light a candle and you do things like that to set a lovely place of peace and memory within yourself. I know these are our spiritual customs in a lot of ways, and they can become ritualistic, but sometimes it just feels good to do something like light a candle. When I was with my friend Nikki in Winchester, and actually we were going through Winchester Cathedral, and it was just we were just walking through it ourselves, and we came to this place with all the candles, and I said, Nick, let's just light candles and pray right here, make a memory. And when you do something like that, I'll never forget that moment. That was a very intimate one that we had together, on our prayer together, and coming in this magnificent place. But you know what? You can have those sovereign self-declaration kind of things with a candle, sitting in your living room, sitting at your breakfast table. Make those times, take those times, take a breath. Stand tall in your sovereignty. Affirm yourself. Breathe deeply, and just if you've forgotten your sovereignty, reclaim it by affirming yourself. I am a divine being. I am aligned with my highest truth. I reclaim my sovereignty. Speak to yourself, give yourself pep talks, and visualize breaking invisible chains of control or limitation. When you're walking in your sovereignty, is kind of a fun thing because you are unlimited. And of course, journaling is really good because there's a place where you can put your secrets. Have I given away my power somewhere? Think it through and write it out. What beliefs or patterns no longer serve my sovereignty? How can I strengthen? What do I need to do? These are questions you can ask yourself. Spiritual sovereignty is an ongoing journey of self-awareness, empowerment, and divine connection. It's not about rejecting guidance or community, but it's rather standing in your truth while you're honoring the sovereignty of others. By embodying your divine authority, you step into a life of freedom. You become aligned with what we call Christ consciousness, and we come in alignment with the divine universe. So what does that mean? I would really like to I'm going to go back to the questions, and I'm going to come back to our Hollywood squares. Where are we? We're in the gallery. Okay, I'd like to, I'm not waiting tonight for people to just chat. I really would like to hear what it means to you. Do you believe that you are the creator of your reality, that your energy, your choices, and actions are the result of where you are in your life. Do you believe that? Okay, Betty, you're nodding yes. I see you. I see you. Like, is that your truth? Because you know what? With that comes responsibility, right? It's hard to believe that when you look around you, when you look at your life, that you have created where you are.
And that is so true. And I mean, and I'm really, really working on it because there are days when it's like I'm right off the wall. But I know that I can change everything. Like my circumstances can be really bad, and there are days when they really are. But I know, and I can get myself to a point where I could probably just lie in the bed and just feel sorry for myself. And I know I can do that, but I also know that I can get myself out of there. All I have to do is change my thoughts, like change my energy, my frequencies, start appreciating what I do have, not, and not what I don't have.
Right.
And and it has made such a great difference. I mean, like I say, I'm definitely not totally there, but yeah, yeah, I do. I really believe that. And it's hard though, because then when I'm in a state where I'm not feeling so good, it's like, okay, so I guess I've done that to myself. And
Right.
yeah. And so
Oh,
yeah, so I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, there's lots of stuff I could say, but yeah, I
that,
it's
yeah.
true.
And it's about choice, right? It's about
Yes,
choice.
to totally, totally. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very much about choice. I make that choice, and I have to make that choice, and I'm responsible. I'm
Right.
responsible.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Wow.
yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Gina.
I think this is the most important question ever in our lives that we'll ever ask ourselves if we actually do. It's a really hard one. Um, because when we look at it really seriously and ask that question really seriously to ourselves, um, what I've found is that if I'm going to say everything in my life is because of the decision that I've made and I am responsible for absolutely everything that's happened in my life, oh, wow, that, hello, really? And then I say, oh yeah, but that's because this person, blah, 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 and that certain thing happened to me, and I never was taught doodly do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm always looking somewhere to blame somebody else for my something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's really, really hard
Yeah.
because we have to take responsibility for absolutely everything, including, uh, certain things we deal with in our bodies, let's say.
Yeah.
Or, the doctor says I can't do this. Well, if I want to believe that I can, but really? Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
But wait a minute. I thought I was limitless. But I'm going to believe and perceive that what the doctor tells me I can't do, I can't. Hello?
Right. Right.
So it comes down to like, and there's other way worse things. But so I think it's a huge journey. It's a
Yeah.
huge process, but I think it's the most important thing we will ever do because it brings us to a place where we know who we really are.
That's right.
If we will have the courage and the guts
Yeah.
to ask ourselves those questions, and you can ask one at a time. You don't have to freak yourself out.
Yeah.
It's going to be a process, right?
Yeah.
So you start.
That's
Then
right.
we get to know who we are, and we have to know who we are, or we don't live the life that we're supposed to live. And if I am that I am, then I also can say, I know what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
And I know what is my ministry to the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's real important. And we can slough it off and not be authentic and not be sincere. But I love the word authenticity. And I love the word authentic because within that word is author.
Yeah.
I am the author of my life. That's what makes me I am.
Yeah.
And so, people say, oh, can I get your signature on this blah, blah, blah? And I say, no, I'm not giving you my signature, but I'll give you my authorship because I'm not signing away my nature.
Right.
My nature is mine, and it is the nature of God that I live in. So I think, okay, it's my authorship. So everything about what I do is me authoring this book that I'm writing of my life. And so I think that is part of our sovereignty. It's my self-determination. It's my supreme excellence. It's my autonomy. And there it is again. AOUT, authorship, my autonomy, which is my freedom from external control and external influences.
Come on. Come on.
And that's sovereignty to me in every which way, spiritual sovereignty and worldly sovereignty,
Yeah.
earthly sovereignty.
Yeah.
And so I think, wow. That's a huge thing because we will never do it unless we know who we are.
That's right. That's right.
And so
Exactly.
that is the divine wisdom and if we can't, so you got to start small. You got to ask yourself these little questions and take responsibility. That's a huge thing. Like it's really hard.
It is. It is.
But if that scripture is true, as a man thinks in his heart, not thinks with his brain, thinks in his heart, so is he.
That's right.
So
That's right.
there's the responsibility.
Exactly.
However I perceive myself, I am. However I perceive the world or the something in it, it is.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah. And I think, okay, it's a conscious choice to live it authentically and
Absolutely.
genuinely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think you've shared that really well. Thank you. That it's a tough statement in lots of ways, but it's absolutely the truth. Thank you so much, Gina. Susan.
Gina, thank you, because I was trying to think how I was going to say what was on my heart, and you just gave me a sort of, oh, you opened the door for it. That, my first reaction when I get into, well, yes, of course you created this and you're to blame. And then I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, what if there is no blame? What if just because it's bad, well, wait a minute, who said it was bad? You judged it to be bad. And then when you talked about authoring, it's like, I don't want to be the author of a fairy tale because my life is not a fairy tale. And I want it to be an interesting read. And and then I think, and so I'm the author of that. So here I've thrown in a little spice, a little bump in the road, a little, how's she going to get out of this one? And I thought, this is exactly what I needed to define, because one of the dimensions of sovereignty for me is authority. Because when we have sovereignty,
gives us an authority in the heavenlies as well as in the earth. And I've been experiencing that in my ascensions and some heavenly connections that I've been making as my sovereignty and my strength of sovereignty has grown, or I've been more comfortable with it. It's expanded the way I move in authority in those places where I'm called to do that, in those positions. So I just want to thank you, Gina, because that whole thing about author is authority to exercise. And also, I am writing my gospel. We each have our own gospel, and I'm writing mine, and it's not Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. And so I'm glad of that. And I think, oh wow, God, I can't wait to read this when it's all done, because I'm in it. I'm not observing it from the same perspective. So I love that. I love what you did tonight, Helen. You really gave me an expansion of my perspective and dimensions of sovereignty. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, you know what, I was really inspired to breaking down the word author into author. We are writing the letter that people read. And Susan, you just finished that so well. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Wow, Kathy.
I think the question being, do you believe you're the creator of your own reality? I have to be honest and say I don't completely believe that. I probably a lot because of, everything I've grown up in and all the beliefs that I have had and the external, that we're waiting for that external. So I I can't honestly say I truly believe that because I'm still working through that. And I just wanted to voice that just so that wasn't just saying that I'm there and I don't completely understand it. And what is reality, I guess, is the question that I have, in the sense of, I know that it's real, that our I amness is real, like that I understand and feel like I am practicing operating in. um and but I do know that it is the capital T truth, and that whether it, yeah, um but then that reality, and I'm trying to understand how, some of the experiences we've all had, the traumas that we've experienced, things that have happened to us that we haven't, I don't think, as a child, that you create that reality of, having abuse um forced upon you, right? Like that. So
Right.
then how does that impact in that area of reality as well? So just some questions that bubble up with this whole discussion.
You know what, I really appreciate you actually bringing your point of view. I think it's a valid, very valid, and it's a strong point. And I hear you as well as you're sharing that you're also working through the truth of it. If you look at your life, at what you have created, never mind the the big stuff that you may not have answers for. And I don't believe we have all the answers, and I don't believe that there's a pat um, model for everyone to follow the same thing, as it were. But if you look at okay, let me do it this way. When I look at your life, the part of your life that you've let us into and have shared over the years, I look at what you've created by who you are in your sovereignty, and they don't always come into a 3D form, but I hear peace. I hear joy. I hear in the middle of trials somebody who's dancing in the rain. I hear, and those things no one else can do. And those things you create from your sovereignties. And it seems to me with ease. It's not because you're not challenged, and it's not because you don't want to sit down and cry or scream or any of it, but because that is who you are in your I amness. And I put that into who you are in your sovereignty. So here we have lots, I think, knowing you as much or as little as I do, knowing you, I see an amazing life of how you create calm in storms, as it were, and you have the ability to share that with other people, or and even things that affect you really deeply. You've come through in a way that you have created that beautiful space of being and living that you can't do outside of your sovereignty. You can't do it without. So I think it's okay to have questions. I have a few of my own, not having not having arrived in nirvana yet, but in reality, those are all really good points. I hope you don't mind me picking on you. Like, I don't
No, I
pick.
appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Wow. Hey, Plank family.
Hey, y'all.
Hi.
Wow. So this was my lunch discussion today with a friend, and we kind of talked through and mentor each other. And she shared that she was really going through something, and she said, "This is horrible, but I know it's for my own growth." She said, "I know it's for my growth. And so I can choose to, run from it, blame everybody else, whatever it is. It just feels like I'm getting pressed from every direction." And she said, "But I know it's for growth. So I just have to remember that and focus on it." And, um, one of my favorite verses in the whole Bible is James, 2, where it says, "Brethren, count it all joy when you encounter life's trials,
Mhm.
because it will." And that used to be an anchor for me to go, okay, I don't know the end from the beginning, but I know that the end is better than I can see it right now.
Right.
Where I have had trouble with this before in the I amness, and I didn't have the language for it, but that if I'm truly a child of God and I'm in, and He dwells within me, and I am in Him as He is in Christ and Christ is in us, then why the heck am I going through all this stuff?
Right.
And I did want to look for someone to blame. I did want to look for, I honestly, there was a part of me that couldn't go, "Hey, you made this bed. The fact that it's lumpy and uncomfortable, you made this, and you started making it years ago with decisions. The decision tree that I can now see clearly that got me there. I wouldn't wish on anybody else, but got me to here. I know it's kitschy and catchy, but you say there is no testimony without a test. And I do remember hearing very clearly from the Lord one time in a soaking moment where it was a very powerful time of worship at our church, and we were all just soaking. And I see things when that happens, often more than hear them. And I saw that I was in a car and I was driving, and I went to look in the rearview mirror, and it was blacked out, almost as though it were electric and it were a camera that stopped functioning. And I was like, "So I can't see behind me. What's going on, Lord?" And He said, "I want you to stop looking back and looking at all the things you blame yourself for." Okay, so that was my problem, was blaming myself, blaming my much younger
Mhm.
person who was in the middle of struggles, making bad decisions and judging them now from a distance going, what the heck were you thinking? And what did you do? You knew better. Anyway, what God said to me in that moment is the rear view mirror is for testimonies only. And until you can look back at the victory, then I'm not, stop looking back.
Right.
That was a big moment for me. But where this ties together too is this friend of mine at lunch today. She was talking about a movie that she had just watched about the Catholic Church when they go into a conclave. I think it won an Oscar or something, and they choose the Pope. She said there was a quote in there that knocked her silly. She said, I had to replay it and write it down word for word. And it says, faith walks hand in hand with doubt. If there was only certainty and no doubt, there would be no mystery and therefore no need for faith. Now, I just, there's so much beauty in that because so many people are just sure that they know, and it's dividing everybody.
Right.
Because I know I'm right, which means you have to be wrong. That's not true. But where I listen to that and hear it and tie it back to this is even when I'm looking at myself going, you chose this? Even, the things that we've learned and read, and I truly do believe, although it was hard for me to say, I chose this. I chose all that pain. I chose to put other people through that pain. Why would I do that? But I don't know all the answers. I don't know what I was supposed to learn from it. I don't know when I'll be done learning through it. But I can take a quote like that if there was only certainty and no doubt, there would be no mystery and therefore no need for faith. And faith to me is a lot more than knowing that God's got me. Faith to me is going, I always have somewhere to look and I always have somewhere to turn. And I'm learning to turn more inward towards him instead of outwardly.
Right. Yeah. Would you say faith is your absolute?
Yeah, I really think so. Even, when I read or I watch Pilgrim's Progress, my favorite character in that book is Faith. Faithful. He was just like, you coming? And he's like, those guys have swords. He's like, yeah, but are you coming? God's got this.
Come on. Come on. Yeah. Isn't it, I love your stories, and I love that you take us into things like your episode with your colleague or your friend today, that it puts everything into real life, and how we can learn things spiritually and learn by rote and have buzzwords, but when you come up to an experience like that, that is so endearing and so profound, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. So thank you. That meant a lot. And I watched that movie, by the way. It's excellent.
Yeah, I do. I want to watch it now. Not just because of the quote, but she said it was really well done.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What's it called? The movie?
Conclave?
Yeah. It's on Prime Video. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you very much, Todd. That's awesome. Pat.
Yeah, this really resonated with me, and I've been doing a lot more meditation, and it was interesting because my husband, who I've been with for years and years and years, said, I really notice a difference in you. I think it's because of that meditation. And I thought, oh, okay, that's neat. But one of the things that I found when you said, do you care about what other people think? And that's one thing I found as I grew older was a real positive. Especially around 70 years old, I thought, I don't really care what anybody else thinks. And I thought, wow, this is really freeing. And and even things like when people would say, "Oh, you look really nice." At one time I would have gone, "Oh, da da da." Then I would go, "Oh, yeah, thank you very much. Isn't this nice?" Even in compliments, there's a difference, and that's exciting too. Um, let's see, um, yeah, and okay, for your tuition, I've always been a person that moves in that way. And even if no one else is, thinking that way or interested in going that way, that was okay because that's what I felt God was calling me to, right? And that's what I would follow. And I found that to be a real blessing in my life. And I mean, it's always nice to have a friend to bounce it off, but you didn't really need that, because it was just solidified in you in a way that you knew that you knew that you knew that that was where God was calling you to, or that was what God wanted you to do, or, whatever. But I've always found that to be a blessing.
Yeah. I love that that was one of the questions too, right? Being sovereign means that you have energetic autonomy, right? That you're strong in your own self. That is so good. That's so good. It's kind of nice when you come to that place in your life where you care enough not to care. That's what I.
That's right. Yeah, I love it.
That's so good. Well, I keep meditating. It's awesome. I love it. Thanks, Pat. Shrina.
Okay. For me, I don't think I believe 100% that everything happened to our lives, that we are responsible. I feel like it could be a 50-50 because some things happen to us which we did not ask for, didn't, even think for it. And, life just gave it to you.
Yeah.
And then it changes our life. And but I don't think it need to be blamed. No one to be blamed for it. So those things like accidents happen, some sickness happen, some be born into certain families. These are not, we're not responsible for all these things, and so many things like that I see. But whatever happens, from there we can choose to live.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I say, a 50-50. But then we can't take responsibility for something which we are not. So we sometimes we got no answers. Things happen, not you didn't even do anything and it happened.
Right.
And you can't blame. Yeah, so that is where I stand. And then I whatever it is, whatever situation you are, you can choose the best out of it.
Yeah.
That is up to us. And I can either sit down and cry or whatever, or I can just still stand up on my I amness and leave out the best from that situation. The situation may not change, but I can still do the best, knowing that who I am. So that's what life so far has taught me. See, I look at kids and born with disabilities and so many things and stuff, lots of things. Nobody asked for that. You see, like no one responsible for these things. And sickness, some, like certain sickness, no cure. And nobody wants that, that doesn't even affect like what you eat. Sometimes, yes, certain times we can say that, oh, what you eat, that's what you get.
Yeah.
But sometimes not even that, you didn't, we lived all healthy and still you get certain things which we have no answer and we can't blame it to anyone. Yeah, so the main thing is the blaming. We can't blame it to our parents, or no one can be blamed. It's just we chose to be that way before we come from the divine source. We agreed on certain things, or I don't have, yeah, that's what I think. But then we can still choose the best.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that is actually the crux of the question. It isn't the fact that we're not recognizing that life happens around us and to us, but do you believe that you can create your reality? And I think you answered that in the affirmative, that you have a choice. So that it's not about what happens or having blame. Never I wouldn't judge or put blame on something, especially don't put it on yourself. But like you said too, sit down and think about it and realize that you can choose you can choose your path in anything that you're in. Anything you're
Yes.
in, you can choose, right? Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thanks for sharing, Serena. Elizabeth, is it your turn?
It's my turn. Put in my 2 cents. Yeah, I love Sharina, what you just said. I love what everybody said. And I just, it's such an amazing journey, and even just having this discussion, like Dr. David, doc, the book,
Hawkins.
The
yeah,
book.
and how he says creation and evolution are one, and this is all like we're all walking out our own evolving into the fullness. I mean, we are I am, but it's like the fullness of it coming forth is this process that we're in. And it's so amazing. And everyone is exactly where they need to be in that process, where they are. And it's so beautiful that we have found each other. And, we're coming to this realization. I know we're all on our own unique place, but we can come together and discuss it. And I also, believe that we chose things to come walk out and experience through, this in this earth school, through this teacher of fear, right, in the world, to learn to choose love, to learn that love is the answer for everything, and to choose it, and to come into, I don't know. I'm always like, what words? Holy Spirit, speak.
Fullness.
But it's so beautiful. And seeing like, yes, we can choose. I've heard people say this before, and now I'm taking it as my own, but it's like everything we see, love is in every moment. It's either, a demonstration of love or a call for love, but recognizing it and setting our heart for love in everything, choosing love, choosing to forgive.
Yeah.
And this is another thing about forgiveness is, forgiveness, it's for us. Of course, we know that. But one thing that I've gotten is even, abuse and things like that, the unthinkable. Like if you, like I always think, okay, if I was brought up at like an animal, kept in a cage, whatever, you just think of a situation, I could think that way. I could have those instincts. I could still be in that low developmental place where I'm just got to fight to live. I just got to, and so then you can forgive because they know not what they do. We knew not what we did back in the day. Like Todd was saying, like he said, I should have known better. We did the best we could with what we had at the moment. And so I just so love this process we're in. And I'm very blessed because we got a cheat sheet here. As we talk about a lot, but it's like for me, I had to learn, to live in the present. I was drawn. Of course, I was drawn, and I was like, this is life, and I can't live without it. Even a minute. Of course, I have some minutes where I have to go into the room and reconnect, but I have learned that there is no other place to be. And when I see things that I start judging, like you'll feel your energy, like you talked about, you can feel yourself shrinking.
Yeah.
And that is not life. That's not how I can, that's not living in joy, living in what is life and in the fullness. And so we reconnect, and we're so blessed to have learned of, I am, and how to step into the I am, like feeling, like learning that that is us, come out of the mind, come out of those places, and just like we need that. We need that experience to fill us, fill, all the thinking and all the things that we've learned. It's like that is the higher realm.
Yeah.
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 So I just so appreciate you and everybody. It's just so beautiful. It's such a beautiful process. And when we set ourselves like in this knowing, it helps throughout the day. The things that we encounter, it's like, oh, this is an opportunity, right? It just can bounce off and, might try to stick to us, but then we feel our energy shrinking. So no, that won't do.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I have it perfectly, but
Yeah.
I'm seeing clearly. Jen got these new glasses. Did I show you guys that? And she can see clearly now. And I'm like, okay, that's for all of us. We can see clearly now.
Yeah.
And really, truly, like you were saying, after our ascension, this and after Jen got the glasses, the dreams, I mean, I'm just really seeing things clearly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. You put words to our process, Elizabeth. That's it's kind of exciting when you think about it, because what you've described, I think so many of us can relate to that. This journey is so purposeful. This journey is beginning to have words and process to it. Unconditional love is becoming unconditional, no conditions on anybody under any circumstance for any reason, because we are choosing it. And I'm glad all you said is recorded, because it's very profound and it's very special.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maggie said in the chat, what if our whole life journey is based on how we choose love, and the curveballs we are thrown help us to make love our choice? That is so good. That is so good, Maggie. It belongs in a poem. It's so beautiful. But it's absolutely true, and it's really what you're saying too, Elizabeth. It's mirroring each other here. Wow. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Maggie. Hadassah.
Yes, everybody has shared. So wonderful. Well, this talk share you gave us, Helen, I so resonated with it. I was like, every word, I was like eating it, like, wow. You articulate so well thoughts that, it's hard to find words to describe. But for me, it's just very interesting that just last week, again, Father was revisiting with me this conversation I've been having with him regarding choice and sovereignty. It's been going on for a while, and I've been asking, Lord, so okay, so you have given us the power to choose, and you respect, the way I understand it, you respect our choices, right? So where does your sovereignty comes in? So my conversation with me has been sovereignty, his sovereignty versus my choice. Where does it begin? Where does it end? And it all had to do with prayer. It's like, okay, Lord, so I'm praying for something, and maybe I'm praying wrong, or I don't know how I put it to him this last time. So where is your sovereignty? Where does your sovereignty come in regards to my prayer? I think there was something to be like to do that, to do about that. And I just don't, I have questions to him regarding that. So when I listen to you today, I'm thinking, yeah, all those questions that I didn't even get around to ask him, it's like you're asking them for me now. It's like, yeah, it's exactly that. It just gave me a new vocabulary, new ideas to try to understand his sovereignty. But the thing that is totally new for me right now, it's when you talked about a spiritual sovereignty, that we have spiritual sovereignty. It's like, I don't think I ever heard that before. Spiritual sovereignty, like, really? I have spiritual sovereignty? And I want to say also that everything you were saying, my spirit was agreeing with it. I have no, I mean, I'm not questioning anything. I just agree with everything. This is what is so amazing about, this group. It's like, again, you put in words to thoughts that maybe I haven't even had, but I am agreeing with them. If that makes any sense. Is that quantum? Is that alignment? Is that frequency? I mean, how do you call it? I mean, I'm learning all these new words.
Yeah.
All of you. I mean, the spiritual sovereignty, I'm gonna just stay with it. The other word was energetic and energetic sovereignty.
You know what, Hadassah, I just want to take a minute.
Another one. I need to meditate on it for a month. Anyway, just what I needed to share. I needed to say something because it's so amazing. I am just so grateful to the Lord for this, for finding, for the Lord helping me to put words to thoughts and feelings I didn't have before, especially with, anyway. So there it is. Yes, Helen.
If I heard you correctly, you used the word sovereign for God, right? Okay. So in that, am I right in assuming then that when you use the word sovereign for God, it means he is the ultimate ruler. He is the ultimate. He's the king, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Supreme sovereignty. Yes.
Supreme sovereignty. Now, what I'm saying to you is, as he is, so are you. You are supreme sovereignty for your life. And that transition of thought is sometimes very difficult because we're used to deferring everything when he has said to us, as Christ did, look, I modeled all this for you. I showed you how to do all this. Now you go and do it. And by the way, Hadassah, not only what I did, but more greater things can you do because you are sovereign.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and the term spiritual sovereignty, we are spiritual beings. Our sovereignty comes from not a position in 3 dimension, but our position in him. As he is, so are you. Is that putting it okay? Are you okay with
that? Total 1,000% agreement.
Okay.
This is the thing, that I'm trying to understand me. It's like my spirit says yes, my spirit agrees with it. but my mind is still saying God is sovereign, because this is what I was told for 40 years. I've been going for 40 years. Sovereignty. I don't know I don't know how your background is for you guys, but that's what I heard in my church all the time. God is sovereign, sovereignty, God is, so I never thought of myself being a sovereign spiritual being.
Right.
And not that I don't agree with it, I just need to reprogram my mind, because my spirit is saying yes. My spirit is jumping. My spirit is rejoicing. My spirit is agreeing with everything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So, faith comes by hearing. It's like my mind needs to be deprogrammed. My spirit is ready. My spirit is flying. My spirit is in the heavenly realms. But I'm having problems with my mind agreeing with my spirit. I don't know how to say it. I'm just trying to put words to what I'm saying, to what I'm hearing. So thank you again for an amazing deprogramming.
It is. Sometimes we have to it's called deconstruction, right? We have to.
Yeah, right.
The things that we have spent so many, and for some of us, you and me in this Hollywood Square, it has been decades, not just, it has been, there's a cat, there's a hand, there's a hand. It takes some doing to make that shift. So thank you. You know what? You've probably spoken for others too. So this is always good. Thank you. Jacques, I see your hand.
Thank you. This is a yes and amen into everything that's been said tonight. It's something else, really. It speaks, the truth to my heart, really. For me, it's sometimes yes and sometimes no. It is. It's because when everything comes down to the crunch, you see this blackness, which is, like the negative, right? And this is what it's going to be only and nothing but. And then all of a sudden, it's as if you go down in a spiral with that. And but one way or another, you get back up, for the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, and then you start to say, no, I am this. I am peace, love, joy, health, wealth, etc. And like I think I mentioned that about 2 weeks ago, is that, sometimes when you're even in the spirit or you're having an encounter with Yahweh, it's not what makes you, right? It's not what it tells you that you are super spiritual or whatever. No, not at all. It's just simply acknowledging of who you are. Yes, you're like, that's what I just said, your mind is just wanting to take over, take control of that thing, and just, I can, I can be, and no, you can't. And if you do, well, then you're gonna get some couple of knockouts and go back on the floor like a boxer, And so, like, yes, sometimes like you are just like flying above the line or even higher, you're okay, but all of a sudden, all these things come to you by, lack of funds or job or sickness or wealth. It comes and squeeze the Charmin right out of you.
Yeah.
And then you're saying, well, what is the matter with me? Am I schizophrenic or what? Like, really, okay, just to be honest, like, what part of me is real, right? And sometimes I'll just be alone in my little studio apartment and say, okay, now shut up. Just shut up here. There's only one me here. and all of you take the door, you get fed up, and then you get back into this motion of peace, love, and everything else, and harmony with him. And here's my catch for me, like thinking, let's say like you're fully into peace, love, harmony, and health, wealth, and then things don't go accordingly to what you felt, what you experienced, then it causes you to question again, right? Oh, well, it should have worked. It's almost like a magic wand, right? You just put it up there, hippity hippity pow. No, it didn't. And then, but it's just realizing that when you are who you are, yes, things do not go accordingly, but they will. And we just keep on, or I just keep on looking in to him. And I've noticed a lot. Sometimes I see like myself, but anyways, it's just there, and then you get how can I say, lack for words, refocused, resent, or and then, but yeah, I'm sometimes I feel like I have the right wing of the airplane, but I'm missing the left wing of the other side, and I sometimes I feel like going like that on a spiral. Yeah. But yeah, that's me. That's how it is for today. That's all what you get.
Doc, you are absolutely fantastic. You know, we're on a journey. We're on a journey, and you've described what so many of us have been through or going through, and up and down and all the rest. But you know what I hear from you today is your resolve of telling yourself to shut up. This is it. I am not this. I know who I am. And you come back to that plumb line of Christ consciousness, and you don't quit. And that's pretty impressive, Jacques.
Thank you. Oh, just one little thing, if I might add. 2 days ago, I'm sitting here, and the Lord is saying, "You've passed the test." I'm going like, "What? What?" Like you're saying to him, "What are you talking about here, really?" Like I see myself as full of flaws, and I've passed the test. How did I pass the test? How much did I pass the test? 90, 95%? No, you passed the test. So whatever extent of that word it means, okay, sure. Probably in conclusion to what you've been saying, just your perseverance, you're going through and you're not quitting.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
But yeah, and then some. But yeah, so yeah, praise the Lord. It's good to let it out and to feel, a lot of you folks here sharing basically the same things. It's awesome. It feels great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just going to give you some of the best advice that anyone could. When God tells you that, don't argue. Just don't argue. He knows what he's saying. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Susan, you had your hand up. Is it down? Is it down? Did you take it down or?
Yes, no, I took it down.
Okay.
I had a thought that I wanted to share with Hadassah, but I think I'm just going to text her privately.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Didn't want to miss you. Gina.
I was just thinking, sitting here listening to everybody, thank you. It's such a beautiful conversation. And thank you, Helen, for bringing it up. It's so poignant and so timely, I think. But I was thinking about our deconstruction process and how difficult that is. Because we're having to face certain things and having to, like Hadassah said, I've always been told that, God is the sovereign one, not necessarily me. and stuff like that. We battle these belief systems that we are so ingrained and so indoctrinated into us. And I think of this. We are people who can be programmed, and we have been programmed. In our worldly system. We have been programmed in our belief systems. We have been programmed in all sorts of things, in our education, in our medical systems, in whatever.
Yeah.
That we've been told certain things, and we're programmed just like a computer program. And so, and when we're programmed, and when we have a thing that we think in our belief system or whatever, we can go on autopilot because that's the program we're running in. And so I think, well, autopilot versus autonomy.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in that whole process, we can think, well, wait a minute, if we're programmed, we can be programmed to something else.
That's right.
So we all are talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and blah, 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 blah. And I think, well, wait a second, we can choose if we want to be artificially intelligent and go along with that and think that we can't think for ourselves and we're just going to, plug into this and such and so, and they're going to build a website for us, or they're going to give us an answer to whatever. So we can have autopilot versus autonomy, or artificial intelligence versus authentic or autonomic intelligence, which is what we are. After all, how did they figure out artificial intelligence? We were the model.
Right.
We were the model.
Yeah.
How our brain works, how the synapses of our brain works, how our whole bodies work, and wow, what? We're the model? Like when you wrap your head around that, you think it's okay. Be kind to yourself. We're deconstructing. We are unprogramming. We're deleting certain programs, and we're reprogramming ourselves into the intelligence, the divine intelligence.
Amen. Amen.
The autonomic intelligence. And so I think, well, we are our spiritual sovereignty, us, it is a personal spiritual
That's right.
sovereignty.
Exactly.
And it equals a personal state of being.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's what we are. It's a state of being.
Yeah.
And I think, wow. And so it's just a matter of looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. What a gift, eh? What a gift.
So I just thought I'd throw that in there. It might help, like, when we're in those moments, Jacques, you spoke of, and we all spoke of, and we all know what you're talking about. And Adasa, we get it. But it's just it's so interesting to know that we've been programmed in a way that is not necessarily our program. Let's find our programs.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally awesome. Totally awesome. Those really good points. And I love the way that you use words and put them back in the right order. Okay, Rick and Karen.
Thank you for all the challenging questions, Helen. I always appreciate that. But I was been sitting here thinking about where I'm at on being my authentic self, which at the beginning of this year I'd written in my journal that was my heart. I want to be my authentic self. And then I found a journal 3 years ago, and that was the very thing I wrote at the beginning of that year. So I'm on a journey of who is my authentic self. Sometimes I think I find her, and sometimes she's hidden. But so in the last couple months, it's just that I call it, I'm peeling an onion, peeling off layers of things to let go. And yeah, the realization has come in a greater way that my whole life I lived for serving other people, pleasing other people. And I was, um, in many ways, my church training had just solidified that was the way to go. And now I realize that I'm important and I need to take care of me and turn that ship around. And it's a big deal because I'm in my 70s and I've got a lifelong of learning of how to change how to take care of me. And so I'm discovering things about myself, but in the midst of that has come the question, what do you want?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want? And I'm like, that's a really tough question. But I think that question is leading me to my authentic self. But I'm finding it very challenging to sit with that question. What do I want? So that's where I'm at on this journey right now.
I love what you're saying. I love the challenge in it. Um, and it really is for all of us because we have to recognize we have to answer that. Nobody else can answer it for us. And so many times I have had situations where people have come back from a conference or different, and they said they got the answer. Well, they got the answer. They sometimes, of course, it's legitimate. The answers come all different ways. But sometimes when it comes from an external force, it's not yours. You're going to find the answer to what you're looking for, and you're going to be a force to be reckoned with. It's really, really important. What you're doing is very encouraging.
May I say something? I think in some ways, Karen and I mirror each other because I grew up very, I would say, passive. It's like I didn't want to rock the boat. Somewhere along the line, I did something and someone um, took away from me my ability to speak my piece. Well, I allowed that.
Mm.
And I think one of the things that you said is sovereignty, and I kind of briefed this sovereignty means breaking free from programming.
Yeah.
And I think I've become so aware of how I've been programmed, and it's because I allowed other people to speak into my life, and I'm like, oh, that's what I should do.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out. Oh, that's what I should do. And I went through a period where I was like, well, man, and I've really screwed up more than once. Who am I? And I would say in the last 18 to 20 years, I've been on a journey seeking God and learning and making a concerted effort to step into something different. I appreciated what you said early on about the books and how I have used the books and conferences and sales meetings or whatever, grab all the knowledge I could grab because that's going to be what makes a difference. And at some point in this 18 to 20-year journey, I was like, that's not happening. What's going on? And I think what I've started to realize is as I move forward and I come into a situation, I'm starting to feel that frequency. This doesn't feel good, or this feels pretty good. Um, or I'll catch myself and I'll go, whoop, I'm going to take that back.
Right.
Here's the direction I want to go. It's really huge for me. And to answer the question, do I believe that I am the creator of my reality? I do. I I stepped into it before creation. And I've been awakened to that in the last 5 or 6 years, or maybe less, of what Paul says in Ephesians about we were there before creation. We were with Papa, and we were making decisions to take this journey. And I think there's a book out. Oh, I can't think of the guy's name. Bob. I can't think. Anyway, he's written 2 books, and the second book is Finishing Well. And that's what I want to do. I want to finish well. And I want that to be co-creating with Papa. And listening to what he wants me to do. Now, am I good at that? No. I'm stumbling every day. Oh, I didn't ask Papa if I'm supposed to go this way or that way. Yeah, I don't want to get it down so tight, but I want to be sure that I'm following his lead and I'm doing what he wants me to do into my identity with him and my destiny with him. It's so good tonight. I appreciate what everyone has said, and it's really stirred me up. And I feel really good about where I'm at. Some days I feel like I'm in preschool. Some days I feel like I've graduated, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Did I really graduate? The one thing right now that I'm doing that is helping me probably the most is we are continuing to downsize. And I never thought I would say this, but we are putting everything, pictures and everything, on a flash drive so that we can give it out to family members if they want it. And I'm getting rid. I'm not holding on to that past. Sure, it means something. It was the past, but I'm here now in the present, and they're gone. There's going to be a time when I'm going to be with them, and the picture is cool, but it's really causing me to not let go of my programming. So I'll leave it with that and just say thank you all for sharing. You guys are an amazing group of people, and I always learn something very cool from you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I agree. This is the most amazing group of people for sure, and always honored to that everybody when you can, able to show up. I want to challenge you with something, Rick, something you said, because um, you're talking about following. You want to follow Father and let him lead. And I just want to challenge you with the fact that he says to you, Rick, I am also your rear guard. And for him to be your rear guard, he's following you to make sure that you're okay. But he wants you to lead in some stuff. Going to just leave that.
Wow.
He goes before you, but he's also your rear guard.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Eddie, you had your hand up and now it's not.
Well, it's after 9. I'll make it very brief. I was when we walk in our sovereignty as I am, we have such awesome God-given talents. And you mentioned with Greg Braden that if our reliance is on technology, we were going to, just like our muscles, if we don't use them, we're going to atrophy. And I, for years, like I've pulled up to a gas station and I know what the price of a paper newspaper is, and it might be $1.87 or something like that. And I fill up with gas, and I fill up instead of $50 or $49, I put on $49.13. And then I walk in and I go, I'll have buy a paper too, and they're amazed and they're going, oh, it works out exactly to $50. And I'm going, and they never say, did you do it on purpose? They just go, what a lucky guy. And I'm going, but that's the thing, is that if we don't use our God-given talents, just like our muscles, and we know from, or I know from personal thing, that if you are restricted from using a muscle, it atrophies, and now I have to face that you have to take and strengthen it again. So
Yeah.
thought I'd just pop in there.
No, those are good reminders, Ed. Those are really good reminders. And it's true. Having these subjects come up in our thinking and responding to them and putting them into action will keep our faith muscles going strong. And we're challenging each other. And tonight I just want to say thank you all for your input. Thank you for challenging. Thank you for bringing answers. Thank you for just your transparency and your love, your kindness. You're so wonderful. You're totally wonderful. We'll see you next week. Miss Kim is going to be here with us Sunday through Thursday. So you can expect maybe the two of us showing up next Wednesday night, and we'll give you an update on what's happening in Kim and Helen land. Pray for us. It's intense. It's intense. Anyway, love you dearly. And may God bless you and keep you, make his face to shine on you, be gracious. May he lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his shalom. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Love you guys. See you next week. Love y'all.